morning, my name is Aafreen. I am the Digital Literacy Ambassador here at the Learning Community Development, and today we have with us Mr. Rohit Malhotra, who is the founder and Executive Director at the Center for Civic Innovation. I just want to say that it was just such an honor just to be a part of your workshop and listen to you. It was amazing.
Thank you.
I think it's very rare that you're hooked up all the time, like from the very beginning to the very end, and that happened here. So I just want to say that it was such an honor. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Yeah, it's awesome. You're the first person to say my name completely accurately, so that's awesome.
Probably because I'm thinking.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, thank
Love
you
it.
so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
For your time, I know you have a really busy schedule, so really appreciate that. So in the beginning of the workshop, you asked all of us, why do you do what you do?
Yeah.
And I want to ask you, why do you do what you do? And more than that, we know you have a really busy schedule. What drove you to be here today with us?
Yeah, so my why is my parents, for sure, and I think that if you're young in this country, you watched your family go through one of the toughest economic cycles that this country has ever seen, and I think people forget how detrimental that time was to so many families, and it had direct consequences on my own family. And what I've watched is my immigrant parents who came to the U.S. to give me that privilege of being poor without knowing I'm poor is when you watch how hard some people fight just to make someone else's life better. They're not doing it for themselves, it's not for their own fame or hype, it was solely to make their kid's life better. I think that fight is something that our generation has a responsibility to uphold. So that's my why. It always will be my why. That question will never waver or change. But they're who I think about when I do this work. And I show up when people are doing the work. Everyone's busy. There are people who spend their entire life working 3 jobs in one day and then still go to classes, right? And so for me, it's never about time. It's about can I actually lend something that I think would be effective and useful for this group? And so I felt like the types of projects and work that people are doing, the type of training that we do would be useful for you. The last thing you want to do is waste someone else's time. Like that's not, there's such limited time already that you want everyone to be able to get what they need.
That's probably the reason, you just, from what I can understand, you just want to contribute, and that's probably just the reason that you're so authentic in what you say and how you communicate. That's amazing.
Yeah, I don't ever compromise on what I believe or what my values are, because I don't have to. Why do I?
For sure.
I have the privilege to not do that. Not everybody has the ability to speak up like that, but if I have the platform to say what I believe and I can fall back on some security, I'm good with that. I will use that opportunity to fight for other people.
That's
I love
so
that.
good to hear.
Yeah.
You also talked about how people who have this creative bent to their mind, they're often shooed away from the room just because they're creative, and it's thought that they cannot really contribute to the solution.
Yeah.
I'm a psychology major myself, and from what common perception tells me, my major is as far removed from technology as it gets. And for a very long time, I believed that as well.
Yeah.
Until I got some guidance that if you need to be successful, you need to have these amalgamation of experiences and skill sets.
Sure.
Which is why I came to DLL.
Sure.
So what do you have to say to those creative people, to those psych majors who were so afraid to get their foot in the door?
Yeah, I was a philosophy major.
Wow.
I was, I didn't know what I was doing. First of all, college is meant to be an exploratory exercise. It is not meant to be, just to churn people into a machine. And I think that the universities that understand that you have to take a more human-centric approach to workforce development and college and career readiness. Like you can tell which programs do that well and which ones don't. And usually it's that they are driven by the people who go to that institution, not the outside world that is telling you what the world needs to be or has to be. But instead, investing in those who can dream what the world will be. And so for me, what you major in is not about, it's just your starting point to where you explore the world. I think what's most important is who you surround yourself with.
That is very true.
I think that we have become trapped in echo chambers and self-validating echo chambers that make you forget the perspective of what people are going through on a day-to-day basis. We really have created binaries out of people. You're on that team or you're on this team. You're either this person or you're that person, but you cannot be fluid in between those two. I'm socially liberal, but fiscally conservative, right? That's what everyone says. It just prevents you from actually digging deeper into conversation, into experience, into understanding. And I think it's why we're kind of in this weird moment in the world right now. But I would tell creatives, this is where you go to work. So Toni Morrison said, creatives go to work in times like this. And incredible movements have been built because creatives have been at the center of it. And what better place than Atlanta for creatives to own social movements? Can't think of one.
And you said that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is so motivating. So you obviously something drew you here to DLL, the Digital Learners to Leaders program. What do you think makes it unique?
So first of all, you have an incredible leader in Tiffany. I think that I wouldn't have come or even known or stepped into the building if you didn't have fantastic ambassadors that talk about the work, not as like come to this institution to give a speech and do this. It's I think the question was like, do you want to help students? Like that was the question that was posed to me, and how could you say no to that? And what you can tell is every professor and everybody who has dedicated their work to social impact work in this city, they drive from that like almost impatience of, look, this generation is going to do it. They have an optimism, so why wouldn't you get driven towards something like that? And I was telling you before we started even, Georgia State to me is so inspiring in that way, in that people bring their whole self to school.
Yes.
This isn't just a cool exercise or a checkbox for a lot of people. For a lot of folks who are here at Georgia State, they are wearing multiple hats. They're living in multiple worlds. They have multiple identities, and to have that accepted in Atlanta makes me feel more at home. In high school, I came right around here. When I would hang out, it would be around Georgia State. When I would eat, it would be on Broad Street with all the immigrant-owned businesses on Broad Street. I worked for an immigration law firm on Broad Street where I got to know people who were there. So if you want to know Atlanta, you come to Georgia State.
So you've been a Panther without even knowing
I know.
it. Oh my
Look
God.
at me. I'm a brown Panther. It's perfect.
Oh, you are a Panther. That's all that matters.
Yeah. No, I'm excited.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That is so good to hear. So you also talked about the fact that you really hit home when you were taking the workshop. You really talked about things that people would relate to. It was not just about delivering this workshop, like getting this message across. It was really about making an impact.
Yeah.
What do you think what is that one secret to effective communication?
Authenticity, telling the truth. I've watched people who have talked about their ventures and talked about how complex and how they haven't solved it yet or they haven't figured it out yet. That authenticity is so attractive to someone who wants to work with you. Because otherwise, when you put people in a box to act or behave in a way that is inauthentic, they end up telling you something that may not be fully true. And then you build something on that untruth, and then that thing is not fully true. And then by the time it actually becomes a full-fledged, fully funded solution, it actually still has that nucleus of inauthenticity. And so to me, I think if you start properly, you're grounded in your why, you're grounded in the actual problem, and that doesn't waver, then you can design, the world is your oyster on how you design a solution against stuff like that. But if you start with an inauthentic why or an inauthentic problem, then you'll end up designing things for things that actually don't end up helping people. And I think that is where public services are at. I think people have a point in challenging public services today to say, are they ultimately achieving their greatest effectiveness and efficiency? We should challenge that. There shouldn't be we should look and say, we want those services to be the best possible. That shouldn't be political, yet it is. And so I think that what we're experiencing right now in digital spaces is threats to power. Who actually holds power is the question I think is going to define the rest of time, is where does power live and where should it live, and who should own it is, I think, an important question. But that authenticity is so important, because now you know where I'm coming from. You also know my non-compromisables.
Yes.
So if you want me to go and build something that only makes you money and ignores the people who are affected by it, unfortunately, I'm not the right partner for you. But at least I've been honest about it.
Yes.
I'd rather someone tell me to my face than tell me behind my back.
I totally second that. I just from experience, my mom is a trainer.
Yeah.
And from what I've learned from her, it's that authenticity can get you places. It'll take you places that nothing else can take you. So
Yeah.
I totally second that in real life, on the stage, anywhere else.
Yeah.
So thank you for reinforcing that
Yeah.
belief to me, to so many others who
Of
listen
course.
to this video.
Yep.
I could go on with this
Yeah,
for
I'm good.
like the entire
Yeah,
day,
yeah.
but I know that we're short on time. So
Yep.
one last question. Your workshop today was in storytelling and selling your brand in the right way.
Yep.
To whoever is watching this video, what is that one take-home message that you want to give them?
I think that before you even craft any story, before you do anything, ask yourself why. And it sounds like a simple question because you can get away with a very gut answer, but I encourage people to actually dig a little bit deeper. Your why is rooted in your experiences. It's rooted in your drive, what you believe, what you don't believe, and then a pretty close second to why you do what you do is that if you're in the social sector, who are you trying to do this for, and have you talked to them? I said in there, my favorite quote is, the things that are built for us without us are not for us. And I believe that to my core. I think that it is important, it is inconvenient, it's messy, it's challenging to bring people into the process of building something or designing something. But when you are done, the result is so much more authentic and effective than it would have been if a group of people made the decisions for another group. And so that's what gets me most excited about this work is if you're going to do something, make sure your why is clear and make sure that who you are serving, that you're actually serving them, not just serving yourself.
Wow, that is really, I really wish the world worked more like that, and I think the closer we move to that kind of an objective, that kind of a thought process, the closer we will be to a better world. So yeah, we need more people like you.
I think the good news is that the majority of the world does think like this. The majority of the world does love one another. The majority of the world can see authenticity, build relationships.
Yes.
That's what people want.
That's the basis of human existence.
Absolutely. I think people are very well attuned with the idea that they do not wish harm. Anytime you watch people even talk negative about people, they always say, not you, it's the other people, the other ones that are like you, right? But the beauty of this is that when you can actually get off as much as I love technology and I grew up in that space, when you can break away from that and actually get back to human interaction, you realize that's the greatest tool we have as people, is to just build with one another. And I think the majority of people feel that way. So I'm very optimistic. And I also think that, we got a hell of a challenge ahead of us, but an opportunity to do something about it.
I think that's really true.
Yeah.
And I also think that this was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you
so much.
I'm so grateful to be here. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.